What if I told you that reruns in gacha games were engineered specifically to put players in positions where they would want both characters, pushing you as a player to pull for more than one and spend money? That would suck, but we can use that assumption to consider what characters are going to be rerunning in 1.6. This video is not for whales and dolphins, it's for you because you are just like me. Average Gamer here, and just like me, you're here because you're thinking about what characters are going to be rerunning in 1.6 so that you can plan who you're going to pull for as we move towards a new patch. So let's get into it. Every character run in 1.3 and before is on screen now in release order. Now, realistically, characters from 1.3 are probably too recent to be considered for reruns, but we will reopen that door a little bit later in the video. But for now, let's get rid of them. We can also remove Ellen and Chingy because they're rerunning in 1.5, leaving us with 4 potential characters of Juyuan, Jane Doe, Caesar, and Bernice. Rerunning in that chronological release order feels unlikely though, because we've already had reruns out of order with Ellen and Chingy in 1.5. So that kind of makes it a pretty fair fight between the 4 of these characters as to who's going to be rerun in 1.6. So in the first half of 1.6, we have the S rank Electric Attack Ambi 2 Ambi Harder and the new A rank Physical Stun agent Pulchra. And that might be important, but then in the second half, we will have Electric Stun agent Trigger. Now, I feel the most likely to rerun character here is Caesar. We'll be getting Pulchra as a stun agent who could work well with Ambi 2, A Tale of Two Kitties, but will probably not be as good as Trigger. And then it would make sense to add in a useful support for Ambi 2, Back to the Hood, and out of what we have, the most beneficial would be Caesar, as she is a universally useful support. I think the only pushback on this that I can see is that Caesar can function as a stun agent and Pulchra is already going to be on the same banner, which means that as we're getting Pulchra, it might open up some different options. However, I do think that we'll stay on the Sons of Kaladin, so that there is some potential additional synergy with Pulchra. And I could see this meaning that Bernice gets rerun in the first half, because Pulchra and Bernice are best buds now. From a story perspective, putting these two together makes sense, but it seems unlikely to benefit the newer Ambi all that much, so I think the logical choice is Caesar here. Now, before we move on too fast to the side, we'll touch on the other 2 characters and their potential to be rerun quickly. I really don't think it'll be Juyuan here, as we're getting an attack character with Ambi 2 Resurrection, so it's very unlikely that they'll run another attack side by side with her. Plus, contextually, we will also have just had Evelyn at the end of 1.5, so it feels like too many attack characters too fast for Juyuan to rerun on the first half. Jane, though, we could make a case for. She ran earlier than Caesar and Bernice, and she does help other physical characters on her team, so could work with Pulchra. But anomaly characters really don't need stun, and I can't see Jane working with Ambi 2 Electric Boogaloo, which means that she probably feels pretty unlikely to get her rerun on the first half of 1.6. However, she did run the earliest except for Juyuan, so if the ZZZ dev team feel that players really want the opportunity to pull for the best overworld agent, and considering that many players are rejoining 1.4 and not having had the chance to pull for it yet, then I could see that being weighted higher than synergy with Ambi 2. Ultimately though, I'm coming down on the side of Caesar being the most likely for rerun in the first half of 1.6 for all of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. I just want to give you a bit of food for thought as to why Bernice and Jane Doe would also make sense and why Juyuan really doesn't. So moving on to the second half in just a moment, but before then, this is your reminder that you probably aren't subscribed. Liking and subscribing is the best way to show your support to creators like me on YouTube. You can also drop me a follow on Twitch to support me there and join the Discord. I'm starting to do account reviews again and streams are now twice per week. If you want to know more, the schedule is on Twitch and account review submissions are on the Discord. Links for all that in the description. Okay, so for the second half, we're going to have new character Trigger, who is an electric stun agent. Now let's assume that Caesar reruns on the first half, so taking her out leaves us with the 3 agents of Juyuan, Jane Doe, and Bernice. Both Jane Doe and Bernice don't really benefit that much from stun, so you're waiting for me to say that Juyuan is going to be the rerun here, but I said earlier that we would reopen the door on 1.3 later, and now is that time. Yanagi. Okay, hear me out. Yanagi was in the first half of 1.3, which means that by the time we reach the second half of 1.6, it will have been 2.5 patches, which would definitely be the shortest rerun timeline yet, but still a possibility. Look, I know I mentioned earlier that stun agents don't work with anomaly agents particularly well, as they'd rather have supports, but let me cook for a sec. We don't know full details of Trigger's kit yet, but as an electric agent, she will apply additional electric anomaly, and as a sniper, I'm assuming she will not take up too much field time. So that means Yanagi would get additional electric application and would benefit from the stun windows. A bit. Would it be better than running Yanagi hypercarry with a double support? Probably not, but it could work. And to add to this, a bunch of players probably came back to the game or started it for the first time with the release of Miyabi in 1.4. And even if you've played since the start, you may have been concerned about saving for Miyabi and therefore skipped Yanagi. And Yanagi is incredible with Miyabi, so in order to keep players interested and committed to their Miyabi main life, I could see Yanagi coming back sooner than other characters for the fact that she works really well with Miyabi. However, with all of that said, I still think it's probably most likely to be Juyuan in the second half of 1.6, and this would be in line with the idea that Trigger will probably work okay with Juyuan, as Juyuan mostly wants enemies to be stunned to unleash all her damage in the stun window. But Juyuan can also work really well and is arguably easier to play with a double support setup, but that's a video for when she actually does rerun. Back on topic though, they want to run characters that will work well together, but will probably not be their best in slot. So to add to this, Qingyi is rerunning at the end of 1.5 and will probably still be Juyuan's best stunner, unless Trigger is absolutely insane, and then we'll be getting news on the announcement livestream that Juyuan is rerunning in 1.6, and this is probably going to increase the amount of players who would be interested in Qingyi as well. But on the other hand, that could also reduce the hype for Trigger, but they did that to themselves by running 2 electric stun agents so close together, so I mean, you know, shoot yourself in the foot. So yeah, best guess right now is going to be Caesar rerunning on the first half of 1.6 and Juyuan in the second half. Of course, this is all just opinion and guesswork, and you're welcome to tell me how wrong you think I am in the comments down below. What I'll also mention too, though, is that from playing Hoyo's other games, sometimes reruns just make no sense, except for the fact that they always somehow seem to come at the worst possible time for the teams that you're trying to build, which is where the theory that I started this video came from, of Hoyo trying to run characters that work well together at the same time, but also work well in the context of what they are running close to. Which kind of brings me on to saying that if you're excited for a potential rerun, let's say Juyuan, and you're planning to pull Qingyi for her in 1.5, then you should probably wait for the 1.6 livestream announcement to make sure that we are actually getting Juyuan in 1.6, because you'll still have the option to pull Qingyi once we've had the livestream announcement for 1.6, confirming all of the reruns. Best guess for that livestream is currently going to be Feb 28th, so you'll still have a week and a half left of Evelyn and Qingyi's banner. Something else that I spoke about in my recent power creep video that I should also bring up here is that supports will tend to fare better long term than damage dealing characters because we are more likely to get more damage dealers. So I'd be a little bit cautious about picking up DPSs, particularly on reruns. Of course, waifu over meta and do what you want, all characters can clear no problem currently, but in a few patches time, teams with characters like Ellen might be harder to play for lower payoff than a Miyabi team, for example. Again though, it's just a game, have fun. The endgame rewards aren't really worth it anyway, just in case you care. But anyway, what do you guys think about the upcoming reruns? Do you think I'm cooking with the potential early Yanagi rerun, or am I not considering something else? Let me know down below. The power creep video that I mentioned earlier should have popped up now. Maybe click it if you haven't seen it. If you have, then I don't know, go work out, be productive. You've got this today, and you are so handsome or pretty. As always, remember to like and subscribe for better than average luck on all your pulls. Follow Twitch, join the Discord, pull responsibly, stay weird. Bye, 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 bye.